Alrighty, welcome to Pro Mandarin. Now, do you feel like it's going to take you some time fixing up your Chinese? Well, I think you've come to the right place, because we're going to fix it up in no time. Now, you're probably looking at all this Chinese thinking, can I learn all this in one video? Well, let's find out. Alrighty, before we get into the vocabulary today, if you watched the last lesson in this playlist, then you can go ahead and skip ahead and get to the next set of vocabulary. If not, then go ahead and stick around and see what we got for you here. So first, we have the word hua, which means flower, but it also means to spend, as in to spend money or to spend time. Then we also have the word yong, which means to use or to take a certain amount of time. And then over here on the left, we have zhe, which has a few different meanings. It has this, these, or here. But for the majority of this lesson, it's only going to mean this, and I'll show you how that works in a second. And then we have na, which means that, those, or there. And in today's lesson, it'll just mean that. Now, in order to make it this and that, we add in ge right after it. So, 这个 is this, and 那个 is that. And then the next word we have right here is 我, which means I or me. Then we have 修车, which means to fix a vehicle. So it could be a car or truck or any type of vehicle. In the next column we have 要, which means wanna or gonna. And then below that we have 需要, which means need to. Now for those that skipped the first part because they had already seen that in the last lesson, the next word we have is 开车到纽约. So 开车 means to drive a vehicle, 到 means to, where you're driving to, and then 纽约 is New York. And then we have 了, which is something that you use when you're saying that something has happened. And it has various meanings and stuff, but that's what we're going to use it for today, is just that something had happened. And then we have 半, which means half. And then we have 七, which means 7. 八, which means 8. And then we're going to skip a few numbers. We're going to have 14. 14 is 14. And then we have 几, which means how many, as in just a few, or it actually means a few. So like a few hours, a few people, something like that. Now I'll kind of show you how that works a little bit later, but for now we'll go ahead and move on and add in a few extra things here. The first one is going to be ge, and I'll show you how that works here in a second as well. Then we have 小时, which means little time, but it actually means hour, like as in 1 hour, 2 hour, 5 hours, or a few hours, or something like that. And then the next one we have 月. 月actually means moon, but in this case, when you're using it to talk about time, you're actually talking about months. And then we have 天, which means many different things when you're talking about days or the sky or whatever, but in this case, it's just going to mean how many days. So in this instance, we're going to talk about how many days something took. And then we have 年, which means year or years. All right, now with that, let me go ahead and explain to you how these numbers are going to work. So if I were to say 八个小时, that would be 8 hours. And then in order to say half an hour, I would say 半个小时. And then if I were to say half a month, I would say 半个月. Now, if I were to say 7 months, I would say 七个月. Now, notice that ge is only used in this case for 小时 and 月. Now for the other two, days and years, we don't use the ge at all. That's why I have it sectioned off right there so you don't have to get confused about that. So if I were to say a few days, I would say 几天, which could also mean how many days. But I'm supposing that it's just within a few days, like 1 to 10 days or something like that. All right. And then we have 半天, that's a half a day. And then if we were to say 14 years, for an example, we'd say 14年. So it goes like that. So again, we don't use ge for 天 or 年. Now, a quick little note about how to use le. When we're talking about something that's happened, we're going to use le. But if we use le, we're not going to use 要 or 需要. But if we use 要 or 需要, which is something that's gonna happen, then we don't use le. So that should be the only rule that you really have to think about. Other than that, I'll go ahead and get you some examples before we get some practice in. So the first example is it's going to take a few days to fix the vehicle, which also could mean how many days is it going to take to fix the vehicle. So the way you'd say that is 修车要花几天,修车要花几天. Now I'm going to keep going with this example here just so you can kind of understand it a little bit better. Now, if you wanted to make sure that they understood that you're asking a question, you can use the other form of asking how many, which is 多少. So you would say 修车要花多少天?修车要花多少天? And if you're going to use a northeastern accent, you'd say 修车要花多少天?修车要花多少天? Now, if you're going to say it took a few days, or how many days did it take, you could also add in the le and take out the yao. So you'd say 修车花了几天? So again, that means both it took a few days or how many days did it take to fix the vehicle. But if you wanted to be more clear about it, here's a little trick that you can use. You can add in the word re. So if you wanted to say it only took a few days, you actually put re at the end of this sentence. So you'd say 修车花了几天而已. So that's a way of saying it only took a few days to fix the vehicle. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get you some practice. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a few seconds to be able to work out the question in your own mind and then be able to say it out loud. And if you still need a little extra time, go ahead and pause the video. So with that, how would you say this took 14 hours? 这个花了14个小时. 这个花了14个小时. All right, and alternatively, you can also use the 用 instead. 这个用了14个小时. Now, for the next one, how would you say, it took me 8 years, or I spent 8 years, and let's use 花 on this one. 我花了8年. 我花了8年. Now for the next one, how would you say it's going to take 7 days to drive to New York? 开车到纽约要花7天. 开车到纽约要花7天. Now if you were to use the word 需要 instead, typically it means to need to, but in this case it could also mean it's going to take or it takes however amount of time, and then you can either use 花 or leave it off. So how you'd say it takes 7 days to drive to New York, you could say 开车到纽约需要花7天. 开车到纽约需要花7天. And then again, alternatively, you can leave off the 花, so you could say 开车到纽约需要7天. 开车到纽约需要7天. So let's just do one more before we move on to the next section here. So how would you say it took 14 hours to get to New York? 开车到纽约花了14个小时. 开车到纽约花了14个小时. Now what I'm going to do here before we move on to the next section, I'm going to give you a couple questions that you can answer in the comments below. Now if you use characters or pinyin with or without tones, that's perfectly acceptable, or you can write a joke if you'd like to. So in order to say that, I'm going to give you the word re. Again, remember when you're using re, use it at the end of the sentence to say only. Like it only took me this much time, or it only took this much time to do whatever. So how would you say it only took me a half an hour? All right, and then the second question that I'll have you write in the comments below for this section is, it's only going to take half a day to fix the vehicle. So how would you say that? Now let's go ahead and move on to the next section. But before we do that, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out so I can continue to make quality content like this video. All right, now back to the lesson. All right, for this next section, I'm going to switch things up just a little bit. So for the first part, you have the phrase 从这里. So 从, what it means is from. Now I put 这里in parentheses. 这里means here. So from here, and then we're going to say how long it takes to get to somewhere. And we're going to say in what method we're getting to that place. So let me go ahead and give you the other pieces of vocabulary here, and then I'll kind of give you an example. And then from there, I'll have you work out the rest of the questions down in the comments below as well. So the first piece of vocabulary below that is 飞到. 飞到 means to fly to. So we're going to fly to somewhere. From here, fly to wherever. All right, and then we have 开车到. 开车到 means to drive to. Now, the next word we have is 加州, which is California. And then we have, again, 纽约, which means New York. All right, so what we can do here as well, just to give you another idea, just to show you how much you can actually say with this sentence structure. Instead of saying 这里, you could even replace it with 加州. So 从加州到 wherever, like 纽约. So from California to New York, and then you can say it's going to take 7 days to drive there. Now, how you'd say that is 从加州开车到纽约需要7天。从加州到纽约需要7天。Or you could say 从加州开车到纽约要花7天。从加州开车到纽约要花7天。So that should give you an idea of how this works. A couple other places just for the fun of it. We got Beijing, which is North Jing in China. And then we got Dongjing, which is Tokyo, or the Eastern Jing. Of course, that's in Japan. Or you can just use 这里. So how long is it going to take to get there from here? So how long is it going to take to get to California from here? Or how long is it going to take to fly to California from here? How long is it going to take to drive to New York from here? So you have a few pieces of vocabulary there. Now on that note, you're probably wondering, how do you say how long does it take? Rather than it takes 5 days or how many days it takes, but you want to say how long does it take? All you have to do is add in 多长时间 at the end. So you're going to say your full complete sentence and then you're going to say 多长时间 at the end. So a couple ways of doing that is by adding 要花 in the middle. So you have that choice. For an example, you have 从这里飞到加州要花多长时间？从这里飞到加州要花多长时间？ And then the other way to ask it is 需要多长时间? So that's like saying, how long is it going to need to take? So what you could say then is 从这里飞到加州需要多长时间？从这里飞到加州需要多长时间? Alrighty, let's bring on the questions now. So how would you say, how many hours does it take to drive from here to New York? Again, how many hours does it take to drive from here to New York? And then the second phrase would be, it takes 7 days to drive from here to California. Again, it takes 7 days to drive from here to California. The third question is, it takes half a day to fly from here to Tokyo. It takes half a day to fly from here to Tokyo. And then the last question before we wrap up today's lesson would be, how long does it take to fly from Tokyo to Beijing? And again, how long does it take to fly from Tokyo to Beijing? Well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, and haven't 点赞 or 订阅 yet, please do so now. Or in other words, please like and subscribe. Also, if you like this video and you feel you need more practice, feel free to rewatch this video as many times as you need. And if you feel ready to move on, then check out the other videos on this channel as well. I promise you'll be speaking Mandarin fluently in no time. And until next time, 下次见.